This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
For Chanukah, it's really an honor and pleasure to be here tonight. It's a kavod to meet many of you. Some of you said that you've heard some of the Shiurim, so that might be exciting for you, but not for me, because that means I have to do something different. Almost always, Shabbos Chanukah is Parshas Miketz. And even this year, even though it's not Shabbos Chanukah, but of course it's the 9th day of Chanukah, and we'll talk about that maybe later on, that the most well-known question on Chanukah, of course, is the Beis Yosef's Kasha, that Chanukah should be 7 days, of course. When I was a kid, they had a sefer of Ner Lamea, 100 answers to that question, but by now already, I've seen a sefer with 500 answers to that question. But I always like the question the other way around. Everybody wants to make Chanukah 7 days. I like the Chidah's question, we're going to talk about later. Chidah wants to know that Chanukah should be 9 days, of course, which would make this year Parshas Miketz the 9th day of Chanukah. Why should it be 9 days? Sveika d'Yoma, of course. So I know what you're thinking. What do you mean Sveika d'Yoma? You don't say Sveika d'Yoma d'Rabbanan. Mehechi Teisa, you don't say Sveika d'Yoma d'Rabbanan. The Rishonim ask, Purim, you should say Sveika d'Yoma. And the Mordechai answers, the only reason you don't say Sveika d'Yoma is because it says V'lo Yavar, it doesn't say V'lo Yavar by Chanukah. So really, Chanukah should be 9 days, which would bring Parshas Miketz always to be Shabbos Chanukah. I want to share with you an observation on Parshas Miketz that I did not see anybody discuss. We know there's a Shaila Halacha, the Sudos on Chanukah. Are they Sudos Mitzvah or are they Sudos Rishus? It's a famous machlokes. The Marame Rutenberg writes, Sudos on Chanukah are Sudos Rishus. There's no mitzvah to have the Suda, there's no inyan to have the Suda. It's a meal. A meal is a meal is a meal. It's like a regular Tuesday night supper. You're not doing anything admirable. It beats a lot of other things people could be doing, but it's not a Sudas Mitzvah. And this is recorded by the Tashbates, the Talmud of Marame Rutenberg. But the Marshal writes that it's Meduyik in the Rambam. The Rambam says, Befeirush, Chanukah are Yemei Simcha. It's a pella on the Rambam, Mehechi Teisi, Chanukah are Yemei Simcha. But the Rambam writes, Chanukah are Yemei Simcha. And therefore the Marshal says, Sudois on Chanukah are Sudois Mitzvah. It's Machlokes, Marame Rutenberg, and the Marshal. So the Matei Moshe, who's a Talmud of the Marshal, and this is the way the Ramah brings it down. The Mechaber Paskins, Riboy Sudois are Sudois Rishus. The Ramah says, Yesh Shoimrim, there's a Ktsas Mitzvah. Says the Ramah, I have a great idea, says Ramah. The minhag is, you say Divrei Torah. Yeah, and what? Because really, if you say a Dvar Torah, every Suda could be like a Sudas Mitzvah. The Mishnah Berurah says, a combination, according to the Shita, said it's a Sudas Mitzvah, and the Divrei Torah, you put them all in the pot, you make a chulent. It's machlokes whether it's Sudas Mitzvah, throw in a Dvar Torah, stir it up, and out comes Sudas Mitzvah. It's a very interesting thing. We do not find anywhere in Halacha that if you have a shaila about a Suda, you mix in Divrei Torah, and the Divrei Torah elevate the Suda to a Sudas Mitzvah. Either a Suda is a Sudas Mitzvah, or it's not a Sudas Mitzvah. If it's not a Sudas Mitzvah, a Dvar Torah doesn't make it a Sudas Mitzvah. It makes it that you said a Dvar Torah. What's the inyan, Dafka on Chanukah? That there's a shaila if the Suda is a Sudas Mitzvah, you throw in some Divrei Torah, and it becomes a Sudas Mitzvah. So here's my observation on Parshas Miketz. I haven't seen anybody speak about this. Everybody knows Roiv Shanim, Mamish, 9 out of 10, Shabbos Chanukah is Parshas Miketz. There's even a remez to Chanukah in Miketz. Anybody know what's the famous remez? Utevayach, very good. Tevach, v'hachein, Shiltei Giborim brings down the ches of Tevach, v'hachein, Chanukah. If I wouldn't know better, and somebody, just woke up at 3 a.m. in the night, and someone showed me Parshas Miketz, and somebody would have asked me, what time of the year, which Yom Tif do you think is connected with Parshas Miketz? I would have said in a heartbeat, Parshas Miketz is a mirror image of Megillas Esther. I would say it's Purim. This is Parsha Zachar. Really? How? First of all, how does Megillas Esther begin? Vayehi. Parshas Miketz begins Vayehi. Okay, Shkoyach. You know. How does Megillas Esther begin? Bayomim hahem b'shnas shalosh l'malchai. Third year. Parsha begins Vayehi Miketz Shnasayim. The end of 2 years, the third year. So both stories begin third year. Fine. That's all you got? No. I'm just getting started. If you look in the Baal HaTurim on Parshas Miketz, Baal HaTurim brings many, many times. There are phrases in Miketz that appear nowhere else in Tanakh except for Megillas Esther. Lemashal, v'yikbetzu es kol oichel, v'yikbetzu es kol nara besula. V'yafked hamelech pekidim. Yosef HaTzadik says, v'yafked pekidim. Same exact lashon. V'yafked pekidim al kol haaretz. Another lashon. The word vayisapak appears twice in the whole Tanakh. Vayisapak Yosef, vayisapak Haman. What's the pshat? And by the way, the Medrash brings vayasar hamelech tabatoi, vayitav hadavar be'enei paroi, vayitav hadavar be'enei hamelech. Even the name Tzafnas Paneach, Baal HaTurim says, what does Tzafnas Paneach mean? Megala Nistarim. It means Megillas Esther. It happens to be, I had to do a little shiur this afternoon. Wasn't preparing for this at that time. So I had to say over Chassam Sofer. So I'm looking for a good Chassam Sofer in Parshas Miketz. Chassam Sofer is busy in Miketz in number of pieces. And I collected these connections from Megillas Esther many years ago. Many connections. My father told me many of them. The Chassam Sofer is busy. The word shever is a very unusual word. Vayar Yaakov ki yesh shever b'Mitzrayim. Shever is Gematria 502. Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai. The Chassam Sofer, this is very busy. Shever in a couple of pieces. Shever is Baruch Mordechai, Arur Haman. If I wouldn't know better, I would have thought this week Purim is coming, not Chanukah. And very nice, Tevayach Tech V'Achen is not bad, but the overwhelming preponderance of Ramazim are not Chanukah, are Purim. By the way, Vayishkeru imai, they had a Suda. They got drunk. Chazal say it's the first time they got drunk. What are they getting drunk for? Chanukah, you don't get drunk? No, this is Purim time, the Sfas Emes says. It's a remez, Sfas Emes writes, to Sudas Purim. That's very nice, it's a remez to Sudas Purim. But it's not Purim now, it's Chanukah. Why are there so many remazim to Purim now? And the biggest one of all is how the Parsha ends and how Megillas Esther ends. The Parsha ends, V'yata alu l'shalom el avichem. Go up in peace to your father. Peace to your father. How does Megillas Esther end? Doiver shalom l'chol zaroi. So the Parsha ends shalom la'aviem. The Megillas Esther ends shalom l'zaroi, as if this week's Parsha is Maseh Avos Simin Labanim. There are a lot of Ramazim, an incredible amount of Ramazim to Purim in Parshas Miketz. There are different thoughts about this. Some people say over in the name of the Chidah never said this. It's from the Belzer Rebbe. The Belzer Rebbe has a Giloi Nifla that 4 times the brothers go down to look for Yosef and 4 times they come back up. Each time they go down is a remez to one of the 4 Galasim. So the first time they look for Yosef is a remez to Bavel. The second time they look for Yosef, they come down with Binyamin, that's Purim. And there you're going to find in the second Yerida many of the remazim to Purim. Next week, they go down with Yaakov Avinu and the whole family, and that's where you're going to have the remez to Goishna, Nun Gimel He Shin. Why? Dafka in the third Yerida. Because that's Golos Yavan. And I would add, that's why the Bnei Yaakov are 66, Gematria Yavan. All the Ramazim to Chanukah will be in the third Yerida of Yaakov Avinu. And then finally, in the fourth Yerida of Yaakov Avinu, that's Golos Roimi, that's Golos Edom, that's the Golos we're in right now. But today, L'Kavod, this gathering, I want to share with you another thought. Why are all the Ramazim to Purim Davka in Parshas Chanukah? We have two important Yom Tovim in the winter's man, Yom Tovim that are D'Rabbanan. Shiurim says these are the Yom Tovim that lighten up our life in the Galus. Chanukah and Purim. There are two pipelines in our body that connect the head to the guf. They're called the kaneh and the veshet. The windpipe and the food pipe. We have to serve Hashem with the kaneh. We have to serve Hashem with the veshet. Yaakov Avinu, Klal Yisrael, we serve Hashem primarily with the kaneh. Hakoel Kol Yaakov. We're mispalel. We learn Torah. Esav's realm is more the veshet. Esav's realm is the food pipe. In fact, Chassam Sofer brings a remez to this, that when Vayivez Esav es habechoira, Targum says Vayivez vishat or veshet. Esav is very connected to the food pipe. Our job in life is which one of these pipes is the predominant pipe? Which pipe is our main connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What's our focus in this world? Limud Torah, Tefillah, and the eating is a heichi timsa so that we could learn and we could daven and we could serve Hashem, or vice versa. The ikar is achila. Elamai, I can't eat all day long, so what am I going to do in between breakfast and lunch? Okay, what can I do? I need to daven and learn until my appetite kicks in. What's the focus of life? What do we get excited about? What are we interested in? What gets the juices going? The kaneh or the veshet? The Shlach HaKadosh writes Dvarim Niflaim. By the way, just as an aside, the Shlach HaKadosh says you have two words that are somewhat the same. There's the word pach, the pach of shemen, and kaf, the palm, your palm. Our job is to transform the kaf into a pach shemen. What does that mean? We have two things. We have a hand and we have a mouth. Some people, their hand is open and their mouth is closed. That's what we need to do. Have an open hand, be a giving person, and keep your mouth closed. Don't talk so much. Don't be so into achila. The ikar is the hand should be open and the mouth should be closed. There are two letters in Lashon HaKadosh. There's a kaf and a pei. The kaf is the hand. The pei is the mouth. The mouth should be closed. It should be a pei sesuma. A closed pei is a regular pei, is closed. The open kaf is the long kaf, the end of kaf. The ikar is you want to be a pach. You want to have a closed mouth and an open hand. Some people, they have an open mouth and a closed hand. Their kaf, their palm is closed and their mouth is empty. The Shlach HaKadosh says the miracle of Chanukah was that we closed our mouths. We were masakin to a degree Mechiras Yosef. That was Al Dibas Amra. We closed our mouths and we opened our hands. The kaf became a pach. But that's just, a little tidbit of the Shla. But here's what I want to focus on. The veshet. The veshet. You need to leave the veshet as a veshet. Vav, shin, tes. Says the Shlach HaKadosh, Chacham einav beroishai. Or that could be read, a Chacham einai, his focus is beroish vav. The vav is going to be at the beginning of the veshet. But if you get a little foolish and you get too carried away with food and you move that vav away from the roish and you move it to the end, so veshet becomes shatu ha'am belaktu. Shatu milashon shoite. The beginning of stupidity is excess focus on achila. We're veshet, the vav of chacham einav beroishai. This is all the Shlach Kadosh. Veshet, chacham einav beroishai. You want the vav to be in the beginning, but if the vav moves to the end, it becomes shatu. Fine, next. Says the Shla, and you could get even more carried away. You could get so carried away with achila, the vav grows. And the vav gets longer. And when the vav gets longer, shatu becomes satan. 3-step process, says the Shla. It starts with veshet. The chacham einav beroish vav. He wants the vav to be in the beginning. But you get too carried away, next step is shatu. You get even more carried away, satan. That's when the veshet influences the kaneh. But if you make sure the kaneh is the dominant pipe, the kaneh is going to influence the veshet, that chacham einav beroisha, where the vav always remains in the beginning. That's the battle of life. The battle between Yaakov Avinu and Esav is what's the dominant pipe in your world? Which pipe is your main pipe? Are you a kaneh guy or are you a veshet guy? Esav is vayivez, vishat, he's a veshet man. Yaakov Avinu is hakoil kol Yaakov, is a kaneh man. That's the shla, a very long shla in a nutshell. Comes to Bnei Yissaschar and he says we have 2 Yomim Tovim. One Yom Tiv is Chanukah. Chanukah is the kaneh. Chanukah was niskan lahoidos ulahalel. Purim is the veshet. Purim was niskan lechol v'lishtois. In fact, we have 2 kelim in the Beis Hamikdash. You have the menorah. The menorah is like the kaneh, and the shulchan is the veshet. The Rokeach writes in Parsha Emor, when we talk about all the Yomim Tovim, we talk about Pesach, Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and what's the next Parsha in the Torah? Lighting the menorah. Says Rokeach, the remes to Chanukah, and after that, V'lakachta soilas, the remes to the shulchan. Rokeach says to Purim. Purim and Chanukah, the kaneh and the veshet. So now the question is, who influences who? Who is supposed to schlep who? Is the kaneh supposed to schlep the veshet? Or is the veshet supposed to schlep the kaneh? Is Chanukah supposed to influence Purim? Or is Purim supposed to influence Chanukah? If Purim influences Chanukah, then we know what Purim is. And we know what Chanukah could become. Chanukah could become an extension of Purim. It could be achila, shasiya. It could be veshet dominated. And in many Sfarim HaKadoshim, what I'm talking about is Sfarim HaKadoshim. People think they're Sfarim HaKadoshim. People could spend the whole Shabbos reading these Sfarim HaKadoshim. They're mamish colored pictures, mitchilasa v'yad soifai, of how you could take these round objects and consume them on Chanukah, because the advertisements make it that the Ikar Avodah on Chanukah is to eat donuts. Why? Because that's taking Purim, the veshet of Purim, and influencing Chanukah to become a veshet. Says the Torah HaKadosha in Shabbos Chanukah and Parshas Miketz, the Avodah of Chanukah is to take the kaneh and to have an influence on Purim. We know what Chanukah is. Chanukah is lahoidos ulahalel. The influence of Chanukah should extend to Purim, that the sudos of Purim should be dominated by the kaneh and not vice versa. So perhaps then, if you look in Parshas Miketz, Parshas Tetzaveh, which is a parsha of Purim, you're not going to see any remazim to Chanukah. No, we know what Purim is. We don't need to schlep Chanukah to Purim. You're not going to find no remazim to Purim in Parshas Tetzaveh. Parshas Miketz, the entire Purim, you're going to find in this week's parsha. Remez after remez after remez. The Gemara says Yosef HaTzadik gave Binyamin Chamesh Yadois. From there, Chazal learn out that Mordechai Yatzim Pnei HaMelech Levush Malchus Techeles V'Chur V'Atarazov Gedol. the entire Purim story you're going to see in Parshas Miketz. The avodah of Chanukah is to give dominance and prominence to the Kaneh. And perhaps that's the reason why in Parshas Miketz we have so many ramazim to Purim. It's no wonder then we have this question about what are Sudos Chanukah, because in a way, Sudos Chanukah, they're up in the air. They're up for grabs, The character of Chanukah is up for grabs. My Chanukah? What is Chanukah? What it is, it's up to you what it is. Therefore, the Ramah says, if you say Zmiros, Shiuros, V'Tishbachos, it becomes a Sudas mitzvah. When do we ever have such an inyan where there's a Suda, we're not sure, what kind of Suda is it? What's the character of the Suda? What's the personality of the Suda? If you say Divrei Torah, like the Mishnah Berurah says, B'tzir of Zeh, it becomes Sudas mitzvah. Perhaps that's the fundamental avodah of Chanukah, is to take the Veshet and to transform it, that it should be dominated by the Kaneh. So those are some ideas about Parshas Miketz, Haba Aleinu L'Taiva, which begins Bashana Hashlishis in the third year, just like Megillas Esther. And there are many, many, many Ramazim. If you look, you'll see Mamish Neflois Mitarasenu. After such a beautiful singing, Hoidel Hashem Kitayv, we can't overlook perhaps the most fundamental aspect of Chanukah. You look in the Lashon of the Gemara. The Gemara tells us the story very briefly. They went into the Heichal, they looked for oil, they found one flask. It's only enough to last for one day. It lasted for 8 days. The Lashon of the Gemara is Lashana Ha'acheres, Kavam Va'asam Yamim Tovim, Behalel V'Hoida. Halel, of course, means we say Halel. Hoida, Rashi says Hoida means Alanisim. And the $1 million question is, the most well-known and important mitzvah of Chanukah was omitted by the Gemara. The Gemara doesn't say Umadlikin Neiros. Here it is. The only reason why this Gemara appears in Masechta Shabbos in Bameh Madlikin is because we're talking about Neiros Shabbos. So Agavurcha Neiros Shabbos, we bring in Chanukah, and the Gemara finally comes down to it, my Chanukah, and the Gemara doesn't say you light candles. By the way, there's a chiddush of Rabbi Shua Mikuna. You know why the Gemara doesn't say Madlikin Neiros? Because Taka Chazal were not koiveya to light Neiros Chanukah. There's no such takana. They didn't make such a takana. Why? Because why do we light Neiros Chanukah? To commemorate the Hadlaka and the Mikdash. There was a Mikdash. They were lighting the menorah. So why would they be Masakein? So Taka, they weren't Masakein. It's a Mavur in the Rambam. The Rambam says later on that they were koiveya to light Neiros, but not that's Me'ikr Takanas Chacham. That's not Pashtus. Pashtus is, it's very shvar, it's difficult. Why did the Gemara not say, why does the Gemara omit Hadlakas Ner Chanukah? There's another question on the Rambam. Because when the Rambam is matik this Gemara, the Rambam says they were koivei Chanukah. Chanukah is, we said from the Marshal Yimei Simcha, the Rambam says. The Rambam says, V'imrim Halel. Says the Rambam Umadlikin Neiros. And the Rambam doesn't say they're Yemei Hoida. The Rambam doesn't say a word about Al Hanisim. Now the Rambam talks about Al Hanisim in Hilchos Tefillah, which is mashma that saying Al Hanisim is not Me'ikr Tsuras the Yom Tov, it's the din in Chayvas HaTefillah. But why is it that the Rambam completely took out a word of the Gemara? The Gemara says what's Chanukah? Halel v'Hoida. And the Rambam doesn't say the word Hoida. The Rambam omitted the word Hoida. So the Gemara doesn't talk about Hadlakas HaMenorah, and the Rambam doesn't talk about Hoida. I want to share with you another interesting thing. A short while ago, I don't know, about 1.5 years ago, we had a trip. We went to France. We visited the Balei HaTosfos, Rabbeinu Tam, the Rivam, the Rashbam. In the south in France, we went to the Ravid and the son of the Ravid, Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nahar. Rabbi Yitzchak Saginar is one of the fathers of Kabbalah. Rabbi Yitzchak Saginar wrote a kuntras on Chanukah called Soid Hadlokas Ner Chanukah. I think it was first published in the Sefer HaZikaron on Rav Hutner. And he asks a question there. This is a question that maybe many of us would think of when we're learning the Gemara, but I don't know if anybody would actually have the guts to ask this question. The Gemara says, Haragil b'ner, having leibanim tamid chachamim. You light the ner as Chanukah and you're good to go. You're going to have children tamid chachamim. How many of us would have the guts to ask, who doesn't light ner as Chanukah? And yet, is everybody zoicha to banim tamid chachamim? The Gemara says, you could take it to the bank, Haragil b'ner, having leibanim tamid chachamim. So you say, well, maybe not everybody lights correctly. Taka, the Bir Halacha says, it's a chiddush, you'll ask your Rav. Bir Halacha writes from Shasachus Mari Bruna, Hadlaka Oisa Mitzvah means that if you take the shamas and you light the ner, you put wick on wick, and it catches fire, and then you move on to the next one, layatza. Why? Because you lit it, and then the fire spread to the most of the wick. You didn't light it. Hadlaka oisa mitzvah means you need to keep your hand on it until roiv of the ner of the wick catches fire, which means your hadlaka is going to take maybe 4 to 5 times as long as it would otherwise. Okay, it's a chiddush, the Bir Halacha. Well, so maybe you'll say, well, not everybody lights properly. Could be, but still you could ask. There are many Yoidea Sefer. There are many who are medakte kechad hasara with every line in the Mishnah Berurah, and yet not everyone is zoicha to banim tamid chachamim. So there's a chiddush of the Mishnah Yavis, Rabbi Tzalel Zolti, and Rav Shlomo Zalman says the same thing. That the Gemara did not omit hadlakas ner Chanukah, and the Rambam did not omit Haida. There's a lashon in the Ritz Geos who says, when he's matik the words of the Gemara, umoidim al hanes behadlakas hamenorah. You hear this? There's no mitzvah to light the menorah. There is no mitzvah on Chanukah to light the menorah. There's no such mitzvah. The mitzvah is that you thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu al yedei hadlakas hamenorah. Which means, you look in the different lashonos of the Mishnah Yavis, Rav Shlomo Zalman, which means, if someone lit the menorah, and he wasn't thinking, I'm lighting the menorah as an expression of the gratitude to Hashem, either chaser ha'ikr, or even lo yatsa b'shleimus. Mashal mahadavar daina. Let's say you give a foreigner a gift. And you give an Israeli a gift. And the mother says, did you say thank you? Did you say ata amar toda rabba? La. Ma toda rabba. So the kid overhears somebody say thank you, and he has absolutely no idea what it means. So he goes over to the benefactor and he says, thank you. He has no idea what he just said. In his mind, he wasn't thanking the person. Did he thank the person? No. Did he show gratitude? No. What do you mean? He said the words thank you. Yeah, but he's mamish mesasik ba'alma. He's mesasik. He had no idea what he was doing. He doesn't even know what the words mean. Says Rabbi Tzalel Zolti, if someone lit the menorah and he was not aware that the mitzvah is not lighting the menorah, the mitzvah is thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The way Chazal were koiveya to thank Hashem was al yedei hadlakas hamenorah. He didn't really do a mitzvah. Rav Shlomo Zalman even says a chiddush that means if somebody is coming home late from work and their wife has to light for them, so maybe technically she can be moitzi you in the maisa, but until you're mechavein that maisa for you should be an expression of Haida, you're chaser ha'ekar. And therefore it could come out that everybody lights the menorah. But you see, hadlakas menorah is different than kamat every mitzvah in the Torah. The mitzvah of hadlakas menorah, it's a mitzvah of gratitude to Hashem. What you're doing is, Chazal were koiveya, that the way we express gratitude to Hashem on Chanukah is like, it's different than any other mitzvah. The mitzvah of lulav and esrog has nothing to do with mitzvah tzrichas kavana even. Avada mitzvah tzrichas kavana. But maybe b'diavad you're yotze without. But by Chanukah, there's no, by lulav and esrog, the mitzvah is to pick it up. What you're thinking, legabe, the fulfillment of the mitzvah, is irrelevant. Any mitzvah. It's not relevant regarding fulfillment of the mitzvah, what a person is mechavein. The mitzvah of the hadlaka, there is no mitzvah of hadlaka. The mitzvah is to say thank you. How do you say thank you? Chazal were koveir by lighting the menorah. The Rambam says the mitzvah of hadlakas ner Chanukah is mitzvah chaviva hi ad ma'od. It's a very beloved mitzvah. This is a lashon we don't find that any mitzvah in Kol HaTorah Kula, that the Rambam should say that it's a very beloved mitzvah. Why is it such a beloved mitzvah, Rabbi say? Because the bottom line is, when all is said and done, all the 613 mitzvahs, what's the tachlis of all the mitzvahs in the Torah? What's the purpose of everything? What's the fundamental purpose of all the mitzvahs in the Torah? The Ramban says, Ein lanu kavana biyitzira ela shenaker sha'akadosh baruch hu bara'anu v'noida elav. The purpose of all the mitzvahs, underlying purpose is to say, Rebbeinu Shalom, I acknowledge that you created me and I thank you. See, but when it comes to every other mitzvah, that's just the underlying purpose of the mitzvah. So we take a lulav and esrog, or we keep Shabbos, and deep down the kavana, the oimek kavana behind all the mitzvahs is to thank Hashem. There's only one mitzvah that was niskan b'meyuchad, that the asiyas ha-mitzvah itself was established as an expression of gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Halakas ner Chanukah. It's the only mitzvah we have like this. So there's a story I like to say over. So this guy named Usher, he fell on very hard times. He had 5 daughters, ranging from 28 to 20. Couldn't move them out of the house. Couldn't get them out of the house. He has a chavrusa he's learning with. Call him Yankel. Yankel, his daughter's on the market. She goes right away. Yankel, Minhag Yerushalayim. What's Minhag Yerushalayim? Is you come to America and you have to figure out a way how you're going to get your son-in-law $1 million apartment back in Yerushalayim. Right? So he doesn't know what to do. He signs on an apartment. The bank's not going to give him a loan. So he goes to his chavrusa, Usher, could you be an arev on the loan? Usher doesn't know what he's getting into. He's arev on the loan. Yankel can't pay up for the apartment. They come to Usher. They take away Usher's house because he couldn't pay up the loan that he was the co-signer of. So here it is. His chavrusa married off his daughter. His chavrusa bought his daughter's husband an apartment. And Yankel Usher has 5 daughters he can't move. And to top it off, he lost his house. So he's down in the dumps. So somebody suggested, go to the Ger Rebbe. Maybe the Ger Rebbe could help you. The Beis Yisrael. So he goes to the Beis Yisrael. And Beis Yisrael says, Usher, do you daven? So Usher is very insulted. Rebbe, what do you think I'm coming here for? What do you think, there's not rocket science. You don't think I tried davening? Like, why are you telling me? I said, but do you daven, Usher? Usher was like, he couldn't even answer. The Rebbe said, let me explain to you what I mean. Do you thank Hashem for what you have in life? Usher didn't even know what to say. Here it is. Thank Hashem. His life's in shambles. He has 5 daughters. He can't move out of the house. He has no money. I mean, this is the advice the Rebbe is giving him. Do you thank Hashem? So Usher leaves. He meets his friend. His friend says, maybe the Rebbe is right. You thank Hashem for, the simple things in life. You have a pillow to sleep on. You have a house to live in. You have water. You have family. You have your health. You have so many things to be grateful for. The Ger Rebbe told Usher a formula. He says the formula is, I know when you say Shema Kolenu, you have a whole laundry list of things you're davening for. You're making a big mistake. Is your laundry list in Moedim longer than your laundry list in Shema Kolenu? The ratio has to be 60-40. You need to thank Hashem 60% of the time. Then you could ask 40% of the time. You know, most people, you see they have like these Sidurim with Tzetlach flying out. You show me the guy who's Tzetlach flying out are things that he's thanking Hashem for. You know, most of it he needs Shidduchim, Refuais, money, Parnasa, money. People are asking for also Parnasa they're davening for, right? People have things that they're mispalo for. Most people, their laundry list is not during Moedim. I guarantee you most people, Shema Koilenu is with a lot more kavana than a person's Moedim. Says the Ger Rebbe, the formula is 60-40. If you thank Hashem 60% of the time, you could ask Him 40% of the time. So Usher walks out, he says, where in the world did the Rebbe get this from? Well, he made up a ratio, 60-40. Next day was Rosh Chodesh. He's saying Hallel. And he realizes, how many times do we say the pasuk? Hoidu Lashem Kitayv, Kili Elam Chasdai? 6 times. 4 times in Hallelu, 2 times at the end. Ana Hashem Aishiana, Ana Hashem Atzlichana, 4 times. Usher knew where the Rebbe got the ratio from. You look in Hallel. 60% Hoidu Lashem Kitayv, 40% Ana Hashem Aishiana. And of course the story has a happy ending. In a short while, Usher married off all of his daughters. He was able to re-own his house, and the story ended happily ever after. Or at least that's what it says in the book. But the Nakuda is, we have in our minds many ideas, what's the ikar focus in life? I have to learn, I have to daven, I have to do mitzvahs, I have to be medaktik b'halacha. The fundamental chayvas ha'adam ba'elamai is shenakir oisai v'noida elav, is simply to recognize what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does for us and to thank Him. And that's why mitzvahs hadlakas menorah, mitzvah chaviva hi ad ma'od, a lashon you don't find by any mitzvah, because it's mekayim, the tachlis of kol habriyakul. Rabbi Glatstein, there's a tremendous giloy of the Chassam Sofer brought in the Sefer Minhagei Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer would say that one should be oisek b'limud haTorah on Chanukah, Yoser Mishar Yimei Hashana. And Chassam Sofer was very makbid that people would spend their time, so to speak, and waste away their time on these very holy days. Says Chassam Sofer, "V'halimud hu inyan gadol b'zman hazeh." Learning is very chashuv now. Why? Ki az nimsuru soidos haTorah l'Moshe Rabbeinu. The secrets of the Torah were given to Moshe Rabbeinu on Chanukah. Hafla v'fela. Where did the Chassam Sofer get this from? What makar is there that HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught the secrets of Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu on Chanukah? Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't even on Har Sinai on Chanukah. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai in Shavuos, comes down 40 days later. He went up a second time. After Shavas B'Tammuz, he comes down to Rosh Chodesh Elul. But Moshe Rabbeinu goes up Rosh Chodesh Elul, he comes back Yom Kippur. These are the 120 days Moshe Rabbeinu learned the Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He wasn't upstairs at Chanukah time, he was downstairs Chanukah time. So what does the Chassam Mehechi Teisi? Where does this come from? So I want to share with you a possibility. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu was Niskasha b'menorah. He didn't understand the menorah. How do we know that? Because Hashem said, V'zeh masa ha-menorah. Hashem is moira be'etzba. V'zeh. It's like this. Meaning Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand it. Before I forget, this very chashuv sefer, Chovas HaTalmidim, that was presented to the Rav, Ba'ava u'v'chiba yisera. My Zayda in Varsha knew the Pietzetzner Rabbah very well. In fact, my Zayda wrote that during the Holocaust, he saw a michtav, a book written by the Gedolim, including Pietzetzner Rebbe, explaining a hashkafa of why the Holocaust was happening. It was called Yam Dam V'Ne'avad. So I'm just remembering that. I wanted to mention. Where does this come from? Moshe Rabbeinu was Neskasha b'menorah. The Gra says as follows. You know what Moshe Rabbeinu's kasha on the menorah was? The menorah has different designs. It has Geviyim, Taftoirim, Prachim, 11 Geviyim, 22 Kaftoirim, 9 Prachim, 42 different intricate designs, plus the Shiva Knei Menorah, 49 components of the menorah. Says the Gra, we know that Chamishim Shaarei Bina Nivru Ba'olam, there are 50 gateways of wisdom. V'kulam nitnu l'Moshe chasar achas. They're all given to Moshe Rabbeinu except for one. Shenemar v'atechasreu ma'at me'elokim. Moshe Rabbeinu was just a little bit less than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kiviyachal. So Moshe Rabbeinu was missing the Sharnan. Says the Goyin, the designs of the menorah, the hashpa of Torah came to Klal Yisrael through the medium of the menorah. So when we say Moshe Rabbeinu was Neskasha b'menorah, it means like this. Moshe Rabbeinu understood the designs of the menorah. The designs of the menorah were also a vehicle of hashpa satorah. The Netziv writes that if you look in the Medrash of Tarfon, when he would hear a good svar, he would say, Kafter v'ferach, buttons and knobs, you know? Well, what does the designs of the menorah have to do with a good svar? Because Reb Tarfon understood the hashpa of Torah came down to Klal Yisrael through the vehicle of the menorah. So Moshe Rabbeinu got the menorah's designs, because Moshe Rabbeinu knew the Mem Tes Shaarei Chachma. But he didn't get the menorah itself, because the menorah itself was the Shar Chamishim. Moshe didn't know the Shar Chamishim. The menorah represents the Soidos HaTorah. You know, it's Mamish Oyim Menorah. There's an amazing Malbim. Malbim writes that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, Vayomer Elokim Vayhi Chen, Vayomer Elokim Vayhi Chen, Vayomer Elokim Vayhi Chen. But by the light, it says Vayomer Elokim, and it wasn't Vayhi Chen, it's Vayhi Or. That's mashma. The light was not the way the Rebbeinu Shem wanted it. Says the Malbim, that's right, because Hashem wanted the Or Haganos to illuminate. But Hashem saw that it was not proper for the Rishon to benefit from it, so Hashem hid it away for the Tzaddikim L'Asalavai. So Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or, it wasn't Vayehi Chen. It was Vayehi Or, but it wasn't Vayehi Chen. However, the Malbim says, when Aaron HaKoyin lit the menorah, he brought out the original Or Haganos of creation. Therefore, when Aaron lit the menorah, we're going to read on Zois Chanukah, Vayas Cain Aaron. That which it should have said, Bebrias ha'olam, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or, Vayehi Chen, and it didn't, Aaron brought it out when he lit the menorah. Says the Malbim, this is the side of Magid Shivchai Shal Aaron Shaloi Shina. Aaron didn't deviate from the way the Rebbeinu Shem originally wanted the light of creation to be. Aaron brought out the original light of creation. Now, how long did that original light last for? So our tradition is, the Rekeach brings 36 hours. It's a Gemara. The Gemara says 36 hours. 12 hours Friday, 24 hours Shabbos. The original light of creation lasted for 36 hours. The Lamed Vav Neiros of Chanukah bring out the Lamed Vav hours that the original light served the world. Bnei Yissaschar brings this from, he says, from many Bali Ruach HaKodesh, from the Maral, from the Rekeach, from Reb Pinchas Karatzer. When Aaron lit the menorah, he brought out the secrets of creation. In fact, the Bnei Yissaschar writes in, I believe, Chidushei Meharza, that's why Parshas Behaloischa is the 36th Parsha in the Torah. Because when Aaron lit the menorah, Vayas Cain Aaron, he was bringing out the original light of creation that was Neshtamesh for Lamed Vav Shais. The menorah itself represents the Soidos HaTorah. So let's make a simple cheshbon. When the Rebbeinu Shem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, V'zeh Maseh HaMenorah, when did he tell him that? Well, it's in Parshas Behaloischa. In response to what? In response to the Chanukah HaMizbeach. So Rashi brings that when Aaron saw the Nesiim be mechanech, the Mizbeach, chol shodato shel Aaron. Aaron had chalishas hadas. Hashem said, don't sweat it. Shalcha gedola mishalahem. Shata madlik umeita v'saneros. When did Aaron have chalishas hadas? Well, when was the Chanukah Mizbeach? Say the Chanukah Mizbeach was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Yeah, for 12 days. So you would say Aaron had chalishas hadas Rosh Chodesh Nisan. But I think it's very reasonable to say that these karbanos, you think Hashem only told the Nesiim to bring them Rosh Chodesh Nisan, but when was the Mizbeach supposed to be Neschanech? Plan was, it was supposed to be Neschanech Chanukah. Hashem pushed it off to Rosh Chodesh Nisan. But Yitachen, that even though Hashem pushed off the bringing of the karbanos, He didn't push off telling them which karbanos they were going to bring. It was scheduled for Chanukah. But Hashem said, not now. Which means on Chanukah, they were supposed to be mechanech the Mizbeach. Which means on Chanukah, Aaron HaKohen had chalishas hadas that he didn't have a chilek in it. Which means on Chanukah, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, V'zeh maseh ha-menorah miksha azav. V'zeh maseh ha-menorah. Now, what was Moshe's kasha on the menorah? He says, Rebbeinu Shem, I understand pshat in Torah. I don't understand the soidos of Torah. I don't get the Shar Nun. Now, even though in general we say that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know the Shar Nun, he got bits and pieces of the Shar Nun throughout different parts of his life. For example, the Ari says, Vayal Moshe El Har Sinai Vayedaber as Kol Hadvarim, Kol is 50. Hashem gave Moshe all 50, and then by the Chet HaEgel, Hashem says Lech Reid, go down from 50. And on the last day of his life, it says Vayal Moshe Me'arvois Moav. Moav is 49. El Har Nevoi Nun Boy. So Moshe Rabbeinu had some shaykhs of Shar Nun. In fact, the Chidah brings that maybe he had the Shar Nun itself has 50 Sha'arim, and Moshe had one of the Sha'arim of the Shar Nun. Be it as it may, I think it's reasonable to say that the karbanos of the Nesiim were already known on Chanukah, which means Aaron HaKohen was Chol Shadatoi on Chanukah, and when Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, V'zeh Maseh HaMenorah, He's teaching Moshe the Etzem HaMenorah, which are the soidos of the Torah. Says the Chassam Sofer, you have to be very careful with Eitzak HaTorah on Chanukah, because on Chanukah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught Moshe Rabbeinu the Soidos HaTorah. Maybe this would be a makar for Divrei Chassam Sofer. In any event, on Chanukah, when we light the menorah, we bring down Mamish, the Or Hagonos. Reb Chaim Volozhiner says the Or Hagonos of the first 36 hours that it served the world, the Or is Nignaz in the 36 Masechtas of Shas. And when a Yid learns Shas, and you're ma'ayin into it, and you harv on it, and you're mizdabig to the Torah, so to an extent you're able to access the Or Hagonos. The Gemara says in Masechta Nida, the Gemara says that a child, what's a child like b'mei imay? Ner dolok al roshai, v'roya me'seifa oiloi v'yad seifai, v'malach u'malamdei kol ha'torah kula. The angel comes, teaches the kid kol ha'torah kula. He could see from one end of the world to the other end of the world. V'kivon shenoilad, v'malach v'satray al piv, u'meshakchoi kol ha'torah kula. Yeah, I knew. And what happens to the candle? You still walk around with the candle on your head, and you could see misayfa olam miyad sayfa. The Gemara doesn't say what happened to the candle. The Gemara says everything else. The Gemara says b'mei imoy there's a candle, and you could see from one end of the world to the other. So why doesn't the Gemara say that when the Malach comes and makes you forget the Torah, he blows out the candle also? The answer is, says the Samar Rebbe, there's no candle. The candle is the ner mitzvah of the Torah Or. The candle is the Or Hagonos that's nignaz in the Torah itself. And if you know Kol HaTorah Kula, Memela, you could see Misayfa Olam V'yad Soifa. So when the Malach comes and he makes you forget the Torah, the Gemara is addressing what happens to the candle. But that Or is still accessible today. And to whatever extent we're able to be misdabek to the Torah, to that extent, we could have some clarity of what's going on in the world. Gedolim are able to see what's going to be tomorrow, what's going to be in a week, what's going to be in a year, because they misdabek to the Torah, they have some or hagonos, it illuminates their path. So we should be zoicha in these days of Chanukah, al yidei hadlakas ha-menorah. It's a mitzvah to light the menorah. It's just the ikr mitzvah is only niskayim, of course, if you thank Hashem. But also recognize the tremendous ability you have. You're like a Kohen Gadol standing in the Mikdash, where you're being mamshich la'avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, and like Aaron HaKohen, who was able to bring out the Ar Haganos of creation, a Yid in his home, he's standing there, he's doing the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, Vayas Kain Aaron, Melamed Shivchai Shel Aaron Shalaishina. That's an avodah that it's accessible to every single Yid. Thank you very much for hosting me. I wish everybody Shefa Bracha V'Hatzlacha, Gezind, Nachas, Yimalei Hashem Kol Mashalos Libchem L'Toiva Afrei Lechem Chanukah. Thank you very much.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.